One of the least discussed realities of success is that growth reorganizes your life. And not just reorganizes, but changes it, lifts it upside down, and turns it inside out. And not just your career, but your relationships, your identity, your priorities, your emotional capacity, your standards, your tolerance, your nervous system. And eventually, your internal world starts evolving faster than the environment you originally built your life inside of. What was is simply no longer the same. And that can feel incredibly disorienting, even when you're doing well, especially because externally your life looks successful. Lots of things are great. You're functioning, you're working, parenting, performing, handling business, but internally, it's not always unicorns and rainbows. The conversations that used to feel fulfilling may no longer fit. The dynamics that once felt normal may start to feel draining. The roles you once occupied in relationships may begin to feel unsustainable. You start to feel like you're fading away. And I think ambitious women experience a very specific version of this that people don't talk about honestly enough. It's that success has costs. Not always negative costs, not always positive, but real costs. Growth changes you, responsibility changes you, and eventually you realize that some relationships only worked when you were more available, more exhausted, more accommodating, less ambitious, less honest about your own needs, and less aware of what you actually wanted for your life. That realization can carry grief, guilt, sometimes clarity or freedom, loneliness, empowerment, and exhaustion, all at the same time. In other words, success can be complicated. Many capable women quietly carry that complexity while assuming that they're the only one. Well, guess what? You are not alone. This is what we're going to talk about today, so let's dive in. Welcome to the Bold Life School, the show that empowers you to elevate your life and to step into your full potential. I'm your host, Jameson, and this is where ambition meets authenticity, where you'll find the tools and inspiration to grow, evolve, and thrive. Each week, we dive into powerful topics that challenge the status quo, whether it's to break through limiting beliefs, navigate life's transitions, or embrace the bold moves that push you beyond your comfort zone. Now let's get into today's episode. Let's start with relationships. One of the hardest truths about growth is realizing relationships are not only built on love and want. They're also built on patterns of accessibility, emotional labor, our identities, our roles, our expectations, and compatibility. And when you change the pattern, relationships also change, sometimes painfully, because there are relationships that unconsciously benefited from your lack of boundaries, your self-sacrifice, your overfunctioning, your uncertainty, your emotional caretaking. You probably benefited from some of those as well. But now you've grown, evolved, and reprioritized. And the moment you become more disciplined, more focused, ambitious, more self-respecting, or simply more honest about your capacity, it can disrupt the pattern of your relationships. People don't like it when you change. And it's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily because the other person in the relationship is bad or wants to hurt you, but because growth reorganizes your social ecosystem. When I ask the question, who are the 5 people I spend the most time with? Because I know that who I spend my time with influences me most heavily. And now I get a very different answer than I would have 20 years ago. Do I like my answers now versus then? Mostly, yeah. But I also sometimes have questions for myself. I mean, should there be coworkers on my list of type 5 people? What happened to all my gal pals? What about my family members? Hello? Anyone? I do wish I had more time to spend with some of my favorite people, but I also recognize that in order to achieve my own goals and dreams, I do choose to prioritize differently a lot of the time. Nobody really prepares women for that. What we must leave behind in order to grow and maintain our careers, our businesses, the household, the family structures that we've chosen, and to achieve our goals and aspirations. It's not easy. You also just don't have as much time for all the BS, the unnecessary drama, the low vibrations that often come with low goals and too much free time. But nobody explains that when you stop shape shifting to maintain comfort and availability for everyone else in your life, that certain relationship dynamics become unstable. Many of us women interpret that instability as guilt. Am I being selfish? Am I changing too much? Why do I feel disconnected from people that I love? But often what's happening is this: your identity is evolving. It seems obvious, but a lot of us get stuck up on it. And relationships built around an older version of you are struggling to keep up. That does not automatically mean that your old relationships must end, but it does mean that something real is changing, and that is you. There is a hidden cost of being highly capable. Highly capable women often become a whole emotional infrastructure for everyone around them. I mean, when you become high functioning, you are the reliable one, the responsible one, the emotionally intelligent one, the stable one, the one who figures things out. And people notice. Eventually, the people in your life then unconsciously or consciously organize around your capacity because you're a baddie. But here's the problem. The more capable you are, the less visible your exhaustion becomes. People assume, oh, she's got it. She can handle it. She's strong. But meanwhile, internally, you may be overwhelmed, exhausted, and barely getting by. Especially if you're a single parent, maybe a caregiver, financially responsible for others, navigating things like divorce or raising children, or building a career while carrying a bunch of invisible labor at home. This is where I think some coaching conversations become too simplistic. Because yes, do we have choices? Yes, we always have choices. I can choose to do this or I can choose not to. But not all choices feel morally available to us. So us caring, giving mothers and women, how do you simply choose yourself when there are children involved? When people genuinely depend on you, when your responsibilities are deeply tied to your values and what's important to you. What do you do when all of the things are important to you? That tension is real. And pretending otherwise, it's unfair and it disconnects self-development from actual reality and the realities of adult life. So sometimes the bravest thing is not immediately blowing up your life to go and march after your dreams. Sometimes the bravest thing is enduring. Strategically, though, while quietly building some leverage for the future underneath your current reality, which sometimes feels like it stinks. Enduring while planning a different future for yourself, where hopefully you can become more centered and focused on what you want. And I think ambitious women need permission to acknowledge both truths simultaneously. You can love your responsibilities and still feel the weight of carrying them. It's a trade-off sometimes, adulthood. It's partially the process of realizing every meaningful life comes with them. Career success costs something. Motherhood costs something. Leadership costs something. Peace, marriage, freedom, they all cost something. And you have to have a willingness to let whatever the something is go in some cases. There's no consequence-free path. And because we're told that we can have it all, many ambitious women burn themselves out trying to optimize in all areas for every version of every best life at the same time, trying to be high earning, emotionally available, fully present parents, healthy, ambitious, calm, successful, deeply connected, physically attractive, supportive, and endlessly selfless all at once. But at some point, we do have to acknowledge that reality intervenes because time is finite, energy is finite, nervous system capacity is finite. Like, we can only handle so much. And eventually, we are forced to confront a difficult but important question. What matters most in this season of life? I'm not talking about forever. I'm not talking about the big picture, what you want to accomplish over time at the end of your days. Not forever, just this season. Because different seasons do require that you make different priorities front and center. And one reason women experience so much internal conflict is because they're trying to compare themselves in their current season against every version of perfect womanhood simultaneously. The perfect mother, the perfect executive, the perfect emotionally available partner, the perfect housewife, the perfect healthy woman, peaceful, ambitious woman. But no human being sustains all of those identities at maximum capacity all of the time. And that's not failure. It's reality. And you are a human being. You're not a human doing. So you deserve grace. Some seasons are just about enduring. We need to normalize that some periods of life are genuinely hard. Not because you're failing, but because certain seasons require enormous output. When you're rebuilding, when you're under financial pressure, when you're single parenting, when you've experienced grief, when you're carrying more responsibility than most people around you fully see. And if you're in one of those seasons, the goal may not be immediate escape, even though, of course, why wouldn't we want to escape when we are experiencing hardship? But sometimes we choose not to escape. For example, it gets really hard dealing with recurring struggles with your child, but we still choose to do so. Why? Because we love them. Why? Because we do enjoy being parents. But when something sad happens, you want to feel sad about it, don't you? When an accident or tragedy strikes someone important to you, like your child, do you want to feel happy about that? No, of course not. Sometimes you just wish the circumstances were different. And you try to rely on your positive self-talk, but relying on positive self-talk doesn't always do the damn job of smoothing over the situation, especially when it is ongoing. Sometimes the goal is doing your best to manage the current hardships, reminding yourself why, that you are choosing it, rather than being a victim of it, right? At the end of the day, we can admit to ourselves our why we choose to deal with the hardships that we're encountering now. But then down the road, or when you come up for air, you can still quietly build a better future from within your current reality. This is strategic endurance. You endure what is difficult today with an eye forward to a more hopeful future. And it's okay to not always be okay. Hardships are a part of life. Not every reinvention requires immediately burning your life down to the ground overnight so that you can focus on what you're truly meant to do. Sometimes reinvention looks like planning, pacing, preparing, building skills quietly. Maybe it's saving money or creating future optionality for yourself. Slowly establishing bigger boundaries where you need them, surviving long enough to create leverage for later. And I really want ambitious women to hear this. A season where you feel constrained now is not the same thing as a hopeless future. Your future's not canceled. Your life will evolve. Things will change. What goes down must go up at some point. Children grow up. Your responsibilities shift. Jobs change. Circumstances change. You'll get your energy back. Opportunities emerge almost out of nowhere. In a second, you could be living a completely different life. And sometimes we do need to go with the flow and follow the flow of where life is taking us. But this current season is not your permanent identity. Don't be so busy trying to get to a different, perfect future where you feel magically better and miss out on what you do have today. One of the most emotionally mature realizations of adulthood is understanding that growth and grief can coexist. You can have positives and negatives within you at the same time. You can consciously choose your responsibilities and still feel overwhelmed sometimes. You can deeply love your family and still mourn the parts of you that you had to postpone or leave behind in order to focus on them. You can choose ambition and still feel the cost of what it's required you to become or to leave behind. None of that makes you weak. It makes you human. And perhaps the real goal is not building a perfect life with no sacrifice. Perhaps the goal is building a life honest enough to feel worth the sacrifices it requires. I hope that this episode resonated with you. And if so, I want you to take my 2-minute career burnout signals quiz. Because sometimes we're wondering what's going on with us in our career. And what we call burnout is actually a bunch of different things: misalignment, emotional overload, identity suppression, boundary exhaustion, or just the feeling of outgrowing a version of your life that no longer fits. You can find the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day. And I will see you next time on The Bold Life School. If you enjoyed today's episode, head over to theboldlife.coach for more resources, join our community, and start living your boldest life today.